Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. You know what time it is. If you don't know, you better ask somebody because we getting ready to bring you the lady that knows how to make sure you get the information that's happening in your community in the 757 VA, 2 up and 2 down, but most of all in Virginia Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, is the one and only, the world-renowned GA for Justice host, Miss Georgia Allen, community activist. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hello, everybody. Hello.
Yes.
I tell you, it's an exciting time,
Yes.
regardless of what side of the um, political aisle you're on, regardless of what type of work you do, this is an exciting time. And so, again, I'm Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice, and I come to you every single solitary Thursday at high noon. And it's always an exciting time to be here. And as always, we want to say thank you to Mr. Henderson Vaughn, aka Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker, who has willingly opened up the airwaves to bring our listening audience a conversation, a simple conversation for information, a conversation for correction when necessary, as well as a conversation for transformation. And these are transformational times here. As you know, I always like to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize KWANZAA. So, for the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, we're going to talk a little bit about cooperative work and responsibility, or UJIMA. UJIMA or UJIMA, whichever way, depending upon where you live, what part of the country you live in, is how it tends to be pronounced. But UJIMA is cooperative work and responsibility to build and maintain our own stores, shop, and our businesses, and to profit from them together. And today's topic is fight for freedom. And when we fight for freedom, it can be in many ways. And so we're going to have a very special guest, but I need to do the disclaimer first. Most of you are very much aware that I have worked in the civil rights arena and have been a community activist for decades. Therefore, the various positions that I take are mine and mine alone. I do not speak on behalf of any groups or any organizations that I might be affiliated with. And that includes faith-based organizations as well. I do speak for myself. And so with that being said, we do have a very special guest today. Our guest is Mrs. Kanika Jackson Green. And I waited until I read her bio to determine what I would call this, what topic I would use today. And I use fight for freedom because she's going to talk a little bit about health and her health challenges that she had. And we all know that fighting for freedom is not just about justice in the civil rights arena. It can be justice in the healthcare arena. It can be justice in the education arena. It can be justice in many ways. And when we fight for our health freedom, we ultimately have freedom in other ways as well. Because if you know anything about having any type of health conditions, when you are not healthy, you may not be able to work. So that may impact your pocketbook and your economics. So I'm so excited to have with us Miss Kanika Jackson Green. She is a proud mother of 3 incredible adult children. She has 2 sons who are serving in the military, one in the Navy and the other in the Air Force, while her eldest, a daughter, and is a dedicated residential housing professional. Growing up, Kanika's mother was an Air Force veteran from Norfolk, and she instilled in Kanika the values of resilience and service. And when you meet her, you will see how resilient she is. Kanika's childhood was spent moving between various bases, but she cherished the summers she spent right here in Norfolk, Virginia with her grandmother. Ultimately, her family settled in Virginia Beach when she was a preteen, and she graduated from Tallwood High School. And we found this out this past Saturday when I saw her, and I found out that she had one of my best friends as her guidance counselor, Mr. Randy Lawrence. At age 22, she became a mother and embarked on her journey toward a bachelor's degree in psychology, all while raising her children. Professionally, she has always been driven by a passion for helping others. That's another way that the two of us relate to each other. Kanika became a qualified mental health professional and CBT therapist, focusing on supporting children with autism. Her health journey took a challenging turn in 2004 after the birth of her youngest son, when she was diagnosed with IgA nephropathy. And I forgot to have it say it. I forgot to go online and have it pronounce it. So you're going to pronounce it when you come on. A rare kidney disease. 6 years ago, she was also diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disease, also called MCTD, both of which are autoimmune disorders. In 2023, she became an ambassador for the IGAN Foundation, allowing her to raise awareness about IGAN, rare diseases, and kidney health. Kanika had the opportunity to meet with legislators to advocate for kidney health awareness and transplant donor support by sharing her personal journey along the way. Unfortunately, this year she faced another health crisis due to medical negligence, and she now requires a kidney transplant. Through these challenges, she has remained committed to supporting others and advocating for those affected by rare diseases. I am pleased to have Mrs. Kanika Jackson Green as my guest today.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome, and thank you so much for being here. I'm sure the audience is excited, one, about you being here, but also excited about you sharing a lot of information. Kidney disease is not one of my fortes. I do have two nephews who are on dialysis, and so when I was reading about kidney disease, the words was a little bit too long and too big for me. They were longer than 6 letters. Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
kind of share with us what kidney disease is, and a little bit about some things that we may do in our efforts to support what you're trying to share, and how we can help you.
Okay. So when I was diagnosed in 2004, I had no idea what a kidney was or what it did.
Okay.
I really hadn't experienced any sickness. I didn't even have a primary physician. And then all of a sudden, I found myself with a kidney infection. And that's where I kind of started learning. Basically, the kidneys are part of the filtration system for the body. So all the toxins that come into your body are filtered out through your urine, and that's connected to your kidneys. That's just kind of the simple way. So kidney disease basically means that your kidneys are not being able to filter at 100%, let's say. So like right now, my GFR, which is basically the filtration rate of my kidneys, is at a 22, so 22%. So what that means is that
what is what does the medical people feel is a normal percentage that your kidneys should function at? You said yours is at 22%.
Well, the normal range, I would say, is above 60%. Okay. The reason why is because as you get older, you know, everything, you know, as you get older, everything just, you know, decreases. And
Right.
so it is normal, you know, to have it lower than 100%, definitely. But when you get to about 60% is when the doctors start paying a little bit more attention, no matter, you know, what age you are. But it can be found in children. It can be found in elderly people. You know, one of the main, when people think of kidney disease, the first thing they think of is, you know, having high blood pressure. A lot of times that's the way that kidney disease is found, because once again, because the toxins aren't removed from your body, then definitely it makes your you know, that's still in your blood, and it makes your heart, you know, your blood pressure go up. So one of the things that go hand in hand with having kidney disease is also monitoring your blood pressure. And so once again, you know, the point of, you know, my kind of trying to help people is, you know, a lot of times, especially in our community, we don't necessarily go and, you know, have our, just those basic healthcare things checked out, you know. And so most of the people that are diagnosed with IgA nephropathy, that's what it's called, IgA nephropathy.
Okay. IgA nephropathy.
Nephropathy.
Okay.
Nephropathy.
Nephropathy. Okay.
Yes. It's found from sometimes doing just a basic when you go to the doctor and you have a what is it called? A physical, just a physical. Sometimes your numbers are off. What we've been kind of advocating for is, sometimes when your numbers are off, they say, well, it's falling within a normal range, or we'll just, you know, keep monitoring it. And then because you don't really have a lot of symptoms, you may not come back. What we are advocating for in the IgA Nephropathy Foundation is to press upon doctors to take a deeper look. Not just for IgA nephropathy, but there's a lot of diseases that could be found if doctors would just take another look. We know our bodies, and we know if something doesn't feel right, something doesn't sound right. It's very important to go to a doctor when, you know, something is not right. For me, I presented with a very bad stomach pain, and they told me, well, we're going to give you some Zantac, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that. And I had just had my baby, and I couldn't hold him, and I could barely stand up. And so when I go back to the doctor again, he's like, well, let's just do, you know, Zantac. I said, I'm done with the Zantac. So I had to push him to, you know, I need to know what's going on inside, because something is not right.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
Was your doctor from our community, or was it a doctor that was not from our community?
Not from our community.
Not
Absolutely.
from our community.
Right.
So they assume, well, I can't say they, but it appears that they may have assumed that we could somehow tolerate more pain than others, because that's one of the things that I hear a lot, is there's this automatic, well, you know, they can take a lot of pain. So when you went through that, did you find another doctor, or
at that time I didn't, because
okay.
once again, I had never been sick before, outside of maybe having a cold or a sinus infection at the most.
Okay.
And I was not aware of the disparities in the health system. I just knew that I wasn't feeling good, and I needed to be able to take care of 2 toddlers and an infant, and I wasn't able to do so at that time.
Okay.
So going, you know, fast forward to, I went to get an upper GI. The doctor never called me to give me the results. 6 weeks later, I'm going back saying, listen, I don't know what's going on, but I'm still in pain. He contacts to get the results and says, oh my gosh, you need to go to the emergency room right now. And this is 6 weeks later. and basically said that my kidneys were 3 times the size they were supposed to be. And once again, I was like, but I feel great now. All of a sudden I was like, very scared. It was like, well, it can't be that bad. I don't know what that is. So long story short, went to the emergency room and they said something is seriously wrong with your kidneys. You need to see a nephrologist. And once again, I was like, I don't know what that is. And the doctor was very dismissive and said, you have something serious going on in your body. And I said, okay, no support, no counseling, just, you need to see a nephrologist. Contact the nephrologist, and he, once again started to be dismissive. Oh, you may have kidney stones. And so I had to tell the doctor, I don't know what I have, but I'm coming to your office right now. I'm going to sit there until somebody sees me.
Right.
And this is me, once again, it was so intense that I was no longer myself. And I was like, something is not right. And somebody is going to tell me something right now. And so ended up having to have a biopsy. And then once again, now this is a year I went through this. This was a year of, fighting to figure out what was going on. After a year, my kidney still hadn't healed from the kidney infection. And so they said that I had IgA nephropathy. And 20 years ago, we didn't use Google like we use Google now. And there was very limited information. The only information I could find is, at 10 years after, you have about 10 years after diagnosis before you have really either serious problems or your kidneys give out completely. And I did find that led me to find a primary doctor that was in the African American community. And she was like almost like a mother.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? She explained what was going on, and she didn't, she sent me to this, she sent me to this, and she explained every single thing and every reason why I was going and what was going on with my body. And one of the main things that I really appreciate is she also sent me to a counselor. It was encompassing everything, and she was very concerned about my mental health because at that time I was going through a lot. I got shingles. I was in and out of the hospital. And she would contact my nephrologist, and they would have conversations about my care that didn't even include me. But that was because she was going above and beyond to, the whole wellness, and everything. So that I had a good start. And then as, life carries on, I ended up moving to another state with my kids, and I didn't have health insurance. So I had to go to free clinics. And at the free clinic, I was treated like, I was actually reprimanded for not taking my medication, for, not receiving care. And at that time, I was a single mom with 3 small kids, moving to a state that I didn't know anybody, trying to get any job that I could
What state
get.
did you move to?
Texas. Texas. I moved to Texas, and once again, I knew that I needed to. The main thing that I knew is I needed to have my blood pressure medication, because
Right.
I was literally walking around at stroke level blood pressure.
Right.
And so once I was able to get myself settled and get a job, I get a job that doesn't offer health insurance. So I have to go to the free clinic, and it was not a really good experience. I mean, as strong as I am, was like, I don't even want to go back there, but I knew I had to.
Right.
And there is no, I had a doctor that didn't really explain a lot of stuff to me. Along the way, I started experiencing pain all over my body. And the first thing they'd say was, it's probably related to your kidneys. And then I started doing my own research, and then you have doctors saying, well, no, it's not related to your kidneys. And I had to fight. I had to fight to have them get me some answers. And my thing was this: it doesn't matter how much money I make. It doesn't matter how much money I don't make. I want to stay alive. and I need to,
Correct.
and I need to be able to function and take care of 3 children. So the first thing they said is I have fibromyalgia, which is fibromyalgia. There's no, blood test or anything that can test it. It's just basically, asking questions and, and once again, I just felt like I didn't share the same symptoms that fibromyalgia would have given. So I had to finally, I said, well, I want some blood tests done. So having some blood tests done, they said I had an autoimmune disease. And once again, because both of the diseases that I have are rare, even the doctors can't give you a lot of information about what's going on with you. Very dismissive. Most of the time was very, very dismissive. And at that point, I'm just like, well, what can I do to treat it? They gave me Vicodin. They gave me Vicodin for 3 years. And I said, I don't want to continue to take a medication that is addictive. I need to know what the root cause is, what's going on with my body, what's causing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Vicodin became, I think, it's a class 3 medication. And the doctor that I had said, hey, I can't give you that anymore. Okay, well, what's the alternative? I don't have an alternative. You can take Tylenol. And I was like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was, and then I went to a pain management. Pain management basically
Mm-hmm.
said, you have an autoimmune disease. There's not really much we can do. And so I've been left with, especially with the mixed connective tissue disease, I'm in chronic pain 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Going to, so when you have autoimmune diseases, you go to a rheumatologist. The rheumatologist, once again, not a lot of answers. Now they can determine, what's going on with my body also through blood tests. I do a lot of blood work, every month. And they'll say, take this medication. And I'm asking questions. Well, what is it for? Why am I taking it? What are the side effects of the medication?
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a doctor say, well, take hydroxychloroquine. And I said, okay. This was during the time when we were in COVID and everybody was spreading the hydroxychloroquine as being, and so the way that the doctor was very insistent upon me taking it, I needed to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Why all of a sudden I've been seeing you for 3 years and all of a sudden now you want me to. Now, I don't know if there was a connection, but I just needed more information. And I do notice that doctors get a little frustrated when you don't just do what they tell you to do.
Correct.
And so thankfully, like I said, last year, I found the IgA Nephropathy Foundation, and we just call it IGAN.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came across my phone what they called a lunch and learn. And I was like, okay, well, what can I learn? I've had this disease for 20 years. What am I going to learn? But there was a pool for me to just go and see what information I could learn. And it was in Fairfax, Virginia. And it's very difficult for me to sit for, 3 hours to drive. But there was a pool. I mean, even leaving my neighborhood, I started to turn around. I kept saying, what am I going to learn? I've had this disease for 20 years.
So did you drive by yourself or did you
I,
go with someone? Okay.
I drove by myself. And when I walked in the door, I met the first person that I've ever seen with IgAN. And after sitting down and for 5 minutes, I had learned more in 5 minutes about the disease than I had known for 20 years.
So you went there last year and you got connected last year. So you've been connected with them for a year now.
I have.
Okay.
And the reason why I talk about the IgA Nephropathy Foundation is because I've learned more about just general health care. And I was given the opportunity in June to sit on a panel where they had 8 patients and they had 8 doctors. And it was just a conversation about, hey, I'm the patient. I expect this. The doctors were like, well, this is what we would like for patients. And basically to kind of get in the middle of that miscommunication to find out, what doctors are thinking. And I had the opportunity because I was the only person that was African American there. And so I wanted to bring the perspective of what I knew about my life as being an African American. And I wanted them to talk about the disparities. And one of the things, and just, this is just general conversation, is that, yeah, they all are taught that African American people experience pain differently. And we talked about the disparagement of, when I first started out, they measure my kidney function. One of the measurements of the kidney function is your EGFR, and it's the estimated glomerular filtration rate. Basically, what it means is where your kidneys are functioning in just basic terms. They also had an African American measurement, so I would get two numbers. The African American number was always different from the regular number, and I wanted the explanation. And the explanation was that they're taught that our bodies are different in as much as basically how we experience pain and all of that stuff. Body mass, it was a lot of scientific stuff, body mass and all of that stuff. But basically what it was doing was it was preventing people that are African American from being treated the same as anybody else. We were treated differently. And what that meant was it took longer for us to be told that we need dialysis because they're going by that number. It took longer for us to get transplants because they go by that number. And so there was some, they did make a change to that, but it was just like being stuck in the 50s, like being seen that we are physically, and I mean, you have mixed people, you have, so many differences. I mean, it wasn't I couldn't understand how just Black people were in my test results, and it's because I asked questions, why is this number different? Why does it say non-African American and African American? No other nationality, just African American. And I was told that, they've done away with that, but there's still residuals because there's still people that are now getting on the transplant list that should have been on the transplant list years ago. So they've been having dialysis waiting for a transplant because it goes by your number. And so I have a peer that talked about how it affected her personally. And once they changed the number, she went from being way down on the list to getting a kidney because they had to, stop looking at us differently. So if I hadn't been part of the IGA Foundation and, that's things I wouldn't have ever thought about or researched or asked questions about. Because you get your labs and you have so many different things that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nephrologist and I thought that we had a pretty okay relationship. When I came to him and said, hey, I've joined the IGA Foundation, I've learned more information about this disease. Can we work together to get me on some of the medications that have been approved? And his response was, I'm not really a fan of new medications. And my response was, yeah, that's because it's not your body. It's me. And so he said, well, let's do a biopsy. I had already had a biopsy. And technically, you shouldn't have to get another one when you're diagnosed with this disease. I said, go ahead. We went ahead and did it. I ended up having complications in the hospital, bleeding for 7 days, had to have 3 blood transfusions. The second day that I was in the hospital, everybody claims that they don't know what's going on. And he told me that I was his drama queen, is what he told me.
So again, this is a non-African American doctor.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this locally done or was this done in Texas?
No, this is local. This
was locally done. Mm-hmm. Okay, what happened to your female doctor? Is she still someone that you see?
No, when I came back, because I had moved to Texas
Right.
and Oklahoma, and once my health started really being an issue, I said I want to go back home to Virginia because I wanted that same type of care. Well, she had retired,
Okay.
and I hadn't been able to really find, you know, I have a pretty okay PCP right now, but it's not like, you know, what I had before. And
So do you have an African American PCP now?
no, I do
No.
not.
Okay, so it sounds like you may need to get connected to a team of medical people to hopefully give you some referrals of people that might be better than what you currently have. Well, we're at 12:32, and as I shared, I always like to take a little time out to do what we call our announcements, acknowledgments, and commemorations. So, of course, this month, the month of October, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So, I always like to make sure that people are very much aware of that. And family, friends, anyone that is suffering from cancers of any kind, we definitely want people to go get checked, get tested. I just had my mammogram done on last week.
Me too. Last week.
Unfortunately, everything turned out okay. Didn't see any troubling spots or anything like that. Cancer is kind of close to me because in September I lost a nephew from prostate cancer, and 3 years ago I lost my brother from bladder cancer, and so there are a number of cancers that I think that community needs to be aware of, and I constantly encourage us to get tested. A lot of people don't want to get the colon test. I do that every so many years as directed by my medical professional. And I really encourage, especially our younger men, to go ahead and get it done early. Even though they tell you wait until you're 40, 45, or whatever, it's okay to get it done early. The other thing is it's also mental health awareness month, which is something that you do bit in psychology and everything. So for those who are experiencing any type of mental health issues, NAMI, NAMI, I think it is an excellent group to get information from. And by all means, go online, Google them. And they offer a lot of services, many of which are at no cost. Okay. But we also want to recognize and acknowledge a few people that we have lost recently. We lost Ken Page, who was the voice of Oogie Boogie in The Night Before Christmas. He did the, yeah, and so we want to acknowledge that we lost him, and sending prayers up to the family and friends and everyone who watched the movie. And also Sissy Houston, the mother of Whitney Houston, we just recently lost her as well. So again, I use this time, take a moment out to acknowledge and commemorate those that we have lost. I also like to make an announcement. I do this pretty much every month, and that is the NAACP meeting will be next Monday. It will be the 15th, no, the 14th, because all the Mondays this month are divisible by 7. So Monday will be the 14th of October, and we want to encourage you, if you're not a member of your local branch of the NAACP, we want to encourage you to come out to the meeting. It is at 7 p.m. at the Hive, right in the town center, and we meet the second Monday of every month. This is the Virginia Beach branch NAACP. We meet the second Monday of every month at 7 p.m. at the Hive. The other thing that I wanted to share is that yesterday I had the wonderful opportunity to attend a youth summit at Norfolk State University. And although it's over, I want to encourage people to get ready for next year. Our young people are amazing. They had several panels that you could sit in on and learn about what their concerns are. I was in the political panel where they were talking about their concerns, such as healthcare. That was a major concern of theirs. Housing, the lack of housing. Young people are very concerned about that. And they're also very concerned about the cost of housing. So when you have an opportunity to attend local events, whether it be at Norfolk State, ODU, Virginia Wesleyan, I want to encourage our community to get more engaged with our young people, because there are areas where we can partner together. None of us has all the answers, but collectively we can do better in terms of identifying the concerns. And I don't like to use problems a lot. I like to use concerns, but help and challenges, concerns and challenges. I love those two words. And help each other identify solutions, because it's a waste of time to sit around and constantly talk about issues, but we never look toward how do we solve this issue? How do we solve this one? And so I use this time to try to help our people to look a little bit deeper. And since you are on here today and you're talking about health, one of the things that I didn't do when I came on is I have a topic. The topic is fight for freedom. Fight for freedom. And there's a message up there from Benita. She said, "Thank you so very much for sharing your story." And we do thank you. And I do a topic. I do a KWANZAA principle. And you might say, well, what's with cooperative work and responsibility? Whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, we should be coming together collectively, incorporating together. It's all of our responsibility to help one another. So, and then the scripture. And your scripture today for this show is, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord." And that is from Jeremiah 30:17. And I thought that was such an appropriate message, because after you shared with me on Saturday that you had a kidney problem, and then you sent me your bio. When I read the bio, I was like, I got to find a scripture for that. And the scripture was, we're going to restore you to health. Okay, we're going to restore you to health. We're going to heal your wounds. And that is, declares the Lord. So with that being said, that is our moment to kind of do some acknowledgments, some announcements, and some commemorations as we get back to our very special guest, Kanika Jackson Green, as she shares her information with regards to kidney disease. And again, that is not one of the things, again, that I have learned a lot about, and especially the size of the words. I still cannot get over
Right.
how big the words are. So I was reading, I was like, I can't pronounce that word. I can't pronounce this one. It was unbelievable. So I can imagine when you're going through that as a patient, how challenging that can be, and having to look up these words and what does this word mean and what does that word mean. And so for our listening audience, the reason why we do these shows because we know there is information that someone has that maybe you don't have. And let's see if we can't get that information into the community to better educate you, so that you can then, as Kanika has been doing, advocate or find a partner to help advocate with you. So with that being said, we're coming back to Kanika so she can share some more with us with regards to kidney disease and the IGAN. Is that correct? All right.
Yes, IGAN.
IGAN, okay.
Right. Well, I what I'd like to impress upon people just from my experience is, once again, had I not pushed and made sure that I was heard, then I may not be sitting where I am here today. And so, what I would like to leave, my message to leave with is to, number one, be your own advocate. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, ask questions. Don't be afraid. Don't, allow the doctors to make you feel like you're bothering them, because, one of the things that we talked about is the majority of the time, doctors get 15 minutes with you.
Yes.
And what I've learned is I'm going to use every bit of that 15 minutes. I'm going to ask questions. I want your knowledge. I need you to tell me where I can learn more. I need to know why I'm, taking this medication. Journal. Anything that you feel that's different, you want to be able to come into the doctor's office, because once again, you have 15 minutes to tell your doctor either everything that's happened in the last year, the last month, or the last week, depending upon what's going on with you. So keep a journal in your phone, or old school paper, so that you don't forget in that 15 minutes things that you really need to address with the doctor. I had learned to handle my healthcare like it was a college course. I wanted to know everything about it, and I also wanted to write down, what I was feeling and how it affected me, so that I could take those concerns to the doctors. I wanted to make good use of my time with them. Also, don't be afraid, if you are not getting what you need from your doctor, don't be afraid to look for another doctor. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. And I've also learned, if you can have somebody else go with you, like they say, two heads are better than one. Sometimes I have different experiences when I have my husband sitting with me. I have a different experience when I have my mother sitting beside me than when I go by myself sometimes, because they're going to ask questions too. So it's definitely a team effort. And, once again, don't be afraid to research. Sometimes I've had doctors prescribe medications that I shouldn't take. So because I've done my research and I know what I can and not take, I can say that I can't take that. Sometimes even if I'm sitting in their office and they give me a new prescription, I need you to know what I'm taking and tell me how it's going to interact. And so make good use of that time and advocate for yourself. Definitely.
This is excellent information. I'm like so impressed. To our listening audience, I'm going to repeat what she said, and I kind of added something along with it. Be your own advocate. This is critically important. If you know the story about Serena Williams, multimillionaire, and when she went in to have her child, she knew her body was reacting in a different way than it should. And they could have allowed her to bleed out on that table had she not, continued to advocate. Because just like you, she suffered from an immune disorder. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it is so important, so very important, that we are our own advocate. And if we're not strong enough to be our own advocate, there's generally a friend or a family member who would ask 1,000 questions. I have a daughter that I'm telling you, she asks more questions than a lawyer in a courtroom. That is her skill set.
Right.
So that what you're sharing with us today is so very important. Ask questions. That is so important, because a lot of times we go to the doctor and we assume that they have everything that they're telling us is all that we need to know. Mm-hmm. And so we said, well, this is what they said, and we leave the office without asking any additional questions. So I love that. I love you say ask questions. Don't just go ahead.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
one of the questions that you also would like to say when you first, are seeing a doctor is, how do I communicate with you outside of this? Can is it better to email you? Is it better to call you? Who's going to answer my questions? Is it going to be your nurse, your assistant? Ask those questions also in the beginning so that you know how to communicate. So, if you do leave and you forget something, you don't want to have to wait until your next appointment,
Visit.
especially if it's something that's very important. So
Mhm.
definitely ask, how can I communicate with you outside of this meeting?
That's excellent. I love the fact that you inquire, why am I taking this medication? Asking that question. Listening audience, this can be critical. As a matter of fact, it can be life or death. If you're
Absolutely.
prescribed the wrong medicine that does not work with medicines that you are already taking, this can be a life or death issue. So
Absolutely.
ask the question, why am I taking this medication? I
Mhm.
love the fact that you said journal. You know, journal when you feel a pain or something is different, or if you felt like you were fainting or anything out of the ordinary, and write it down so that when you talk with them again, like you said, maybe my next appointment is not for 2 months. If I have asked up front, how do I communicate with you by email when I'm not in your office? Now that you have the journal, you can go ahead and say, look, this is what's going on with me today.
Right.
You can let them know right away what is happening and all. And so that's so important, because again, like you said, your next doctor appointment may be a week from now, but it could be a month or two, or even a year from now,
Right.
depending upon what is your stage in
Mhm.
this process. And I love the fact that you said handle it like it's a college course. To my listening audience, don't take this stuff for granted. This is serious business. This is your life. This is your health. This is your well being. So take it seriously. And the fact that you said, don't be afraid. If this doctor is not working, don't hesitate to get a second opinion, because we have seen so many times or heard of instances so many times. People have gone to the doctor, they got their first opinion, like you were mentioning about the biopsy. That may have been a time to say, well, let me go and sleep on it. Let me make some, whatever, and then go back home, make a few phone calls, and see if you could find another doctor that could review your records before you went in to have that biopsy, since you had already had one. How important it is to have another person in the office with you, your spouse, your mom, your sister, or brother, somebody there besides yourself that can also help you. And then the one research, when they're telling you about medicines, when they're telling you about certain types of care, let me research what is the feedback on this care, what is, and all. And now that you have, is it IGAN?
Yes.
IGAN. Okay, now that you have IGAN, you also have another support system that when the doctor says to you, all right, well, why don't we do this or whatever, you can check with that team of supporters and find out, what have you heard?
Right.
What are they saying? What's the word on the street?
Right. And using social media helped a lot too. There's a lot of Facebook pages for something that you've been diagnosed with, and it really does help. Like the mixed connective tissue disease that I have, there's a couple of support groups, and I don't necessarily post a lot, but I can read and say, oh, I'm going through the same thing. I've been experiencing that. I've seen this weird patch on my skin, and somebody else will say that they've experienced the same thing. So, and it's good to have, to know that somebody else is going through it also. And sometimes, it'll help you before you can get to the doctor, because you'll be pulling your hair out, wondering, what next. And so sometimes you have the support groups. Now, definitely they'll let you definitely always want to go back to your doctor, but the doctors, they don't know everything.
Right.
And because you can say, well, I told my doctor that I was experiencing this, and you have 10 people saying that they've experienced the same thing, but go back to the doctors and the doctor says, oh, well, that's not related. So it definitely helps to have other people going through the same thing, and even a place that you can just vent and say, I haven't been able to get out of bed for 3 days, and there's always people there that are going to be encouraging. So yes, and a lot of times you can't necessarily expect your family to understand what you're going through, because sometimes it's completely out of the norm.
Right.
So it's definitely good to find a community that you feel comfortable with being a part of, to share your experiences with.
Now, with this community, because people are listening, do you guys do Zoom events and things of that nature where you're in touch with one another? What are some of the ways you communicate? Because I know you said you drove up to Fairfax, Virginia. Have they now started an IGAN here? So I'm just curious, so that other people who may be listening, who are going through something similar, how are you guys communicating?
Well, once again, I've learned so much being a part of this organization. The founder, her name is Bonnie Snyder, and she started it 20 years ago, because once again, there was no information, there were no support groups. And this group is very interactive. We have a support call, so anybody can join in to find out more information, or just talk about what we're going through. The ambassadors have a support call where we support each other, and talk about how we are reaching out to the community to get people more involved. And just the point of it mostly is support and awareness. And
Okay.
we have a yearly meeting where it's a conference where we have people from all over that come, that are either care providers, care partners, or actual patients. But what I found, so what I am as an ambassador is I represent. Right now, we only have one other person that's an ambassador for the state of Virginia. She's upper, and I'm lower.
Okay.
We don't actually have anybody in North Carolina right now, but you can go to the foundation. It's IGAN.org, and you can find all of my information there, or anybody that's in the state or close to the state, or just anybody that you want to talk to about it. And also, they have tons of information on the site about kidney health and kidney awareness. So we definitely are very, very interactive. And honestly, like when I ended up in the hospital, I had 7 people that I just, could just reach out to. My husband was reaching out to, and it was more so to say, what questions should we be asking the doctors?
Right.
Because I had 3 or 4 doctors coming and going, and everybody had a different story. And so then I'd say, hey, have you experienced this? And they say, yes, you should ask this, you should ask this. So definitely it's definitely made a change in my life, because me being in the mental health, it's just like, well, I'm used to helping other people, I'm not into the group thing. And my husband kept pushing me, and I'm so grateful that I did, because we don't know everything. And definitely that's a part of being your own advocate, is reaching out to people with knowledge that you don't have. And they armed me with so much information, and also support and prayers, and just, it was amazing. It was a very scary experience, but it made it less scary to have people that truly cared about what I was going through. And so, yeah, definitely you want to get, you feel like you are alone. And it's funny, because the first thing that I read when I walked into that room is, you are not alone. And I haven't felt felt alone in this journey since joining that foundation. But once again, there's other foundations and anything that you have. There's somebody out there that you can talk to about it. And definitely, once again, like you said, mental health awareness. I'm a big fan of mental health support. There are therapists that specialize in trauma. There's therapists that specialize in dealing with health conditions. So you can do your research and find somebody. And once again, especially with mental health, you want to make sure that you have someone that you feel is supporting you.
Mhm.
So it is okay to go to a counselor and say, this person, I just don't gel well with this person. I've got to move on to the next.
Mhm.
It's okay. For me, my therapist is absolutely amazing. And I can discuss with her as an African American what we experience as African Americans.
Mhm.
Not to knock other, therapists
Right.
and experiences, but I definitely
Right.
have been able to say things that she could really understand what I was saying from our experience as being African American women.
Well, Kanika, this has been truly, truly enlightening. And Benita put another message up and she said, you are your own best advocate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
You are
have to
your
be.
own best advocate. And so, just so you know, we are so pleased that you were able to join us today. And anytime that we can get information into the community that is beneficial, that can help us as we're dealing with all of the challenges. Like I said, when I come on, I'm looking and I'm like, Lord have mercy. We, each and every day we're going through challenges, chaos, discord, discomfort, all of this stuff we're dealing with each and every day. And so to have someone that can come on and talk with us about something that they know personally about is very important to us as we navigate, these various roads that we're taking to get to our final goal. So
Right.
again, thank you so much for being here. We
Thank you.
truly please fight again for freedom. That's your freedom for good health care. That when I use that, that's what I was thinking about. A fight for good health care because we need you to be healthy. Definitely. So with that said,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you for
Henderson is
having me.
back. You're welcome. You're welcome. And you have to join us again because I'm sure there are people out there. And again, you can watch us now. You can watch us later. All right, Henderson, close us out.
All right, all right. You've been watching and been informed with the one and only GA for Jesters and her guests, and hope that you tune in next week for another exciting topic on GA for Justice with your community activist, Miss Georgia Allen. And thank you so much, Miss Green, for being a part of this event. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was you talking about educational.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
no doubt. Well, we off to another week. I'll chat with you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.